Good Wednesday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show. Before we get started with this show, please take a look at this shared disclaimer. Be aware that neither Market Chameleon, Dimitri, or myself are registered investment advisors or a broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a registered investment professional. This show is for Market Chameleon informational purposes only. And with that, D, let's get started.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. And while I'm doing that, quick note, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to try to help answer questions that you have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data, or the analytics. If you have a question, type it into the live chat on YouTube. We'll keep an eye on it. He'll let me know and read it back to me. And to take a couple minutes and give you a chance to type in those questions, we're going to start out looking at our pre-market report, see if we could get insights, what's going on in the pre-market hours, and then we're going to move on to our questions. Okay, so far, this is our pre-market report. And up top here, you're going to notice a calendar view. And this is for the last weeks of data that we're displaying here. You can go back further, but this allows you to see what happened in the pre-market hours on a particular historical date from a high level. And we put it up there so you could compare it to the most recent day. So we're here on April 10th. And this way we could see what's going on today versus what's been happening in the prior days this week. You could also eyeball it to see if there's any particular trend or anything unusual. You could click on that date and see what happened. Today, we're on April 10th over here. And then so far, this is what's going on. We have 227 stocks that are trading higher in the pre-market, 864 stocks trading lower. We have 187 million shares trading on up volume, 126 million shares trading on down volume. And if we convert that volume to dollar value, we have $852 million worth of stock trading higher, $8.5 billion worth of stock trading lower. And from this perspective, it appears that traders in a pre-market so far have a bearish bias or bearish lean. And I think, some of that, we had some inflation numbers come out that look pretty heated. And I think that's what's going on right now. It's reacting to that news. Let's scroll down, look at it from a couple more perspectives. And as we go down, now we see a more granular view. We have the stock symbols, prices, volume, and alerts that are trading in the pre-market hours. We have our most active list, the biggest percentage gainers and biggest percentage decliners. And down here, I see 43 stocks made it onto our biggest percentage gainers list. 307 are hitting our largest decliners list. And that also indicates a bearish lean in the pre-market trading. Now, to make it on this list, we do set thresholds because stocks in the pre-market can have very low volume, low liquidity. And if it meets our thresholds, it could make it onto this list. And that includes small cap stocks. You see here the market cap of the stocks. It could be an ETF. It could be a leveraged product. It could be an inverse ETF, going the opposite of the underlying. So to narrow down this list to a smaller group of stocks, we could use our filters above. And if you have a watch list and you created a watch list, you can filter by your watch list. If you're just following a group of stocks that you're most interested in, we're going to use this filter here in ETF in our example, and I'm going to click on it. We get this drop down menu to select from, and you see different ETFs. We're going to take this first one, SPY, click on that, and the list below got filtered by stocks that are holdings in SPY. So what we did was now narrowed down our report to the stocks that are grouped by the S&P 500, right? They're in the S&P 500. And here we have 2 stocks that made it onto our biggest percentage gainers list, 69 on our largest decliners list. And that also indicates that, the selling pressure in the pre-market hours. We looked at it from 3 different perspectives. They all kind of point in the same direction. And so far, that's the sentiment in the pre-market hours looks like it's leaning bearish. So we gave it a couple minutes. Will, if you have a question, I'll take the question now.
Will, nothing's popped up yet, D.
Okay. So there was a question left over yesterday. It had to do with our Vwap feature, which we're still working on, but maybe I'll start to cover it today. And let's go to Tesla. There's Tesla here. Actually, let me go from here. And this feature here, I'm going to go to it first. Let's go to the price action analysis. And this is the Vwap table. Okay, over here to the right, we're going to our Vwap table during trading hours. So this will be for yesterday. This is for yesterday's. We're not open. This is regular trading hours, Vwap. So we're not open yet. Now, we're still working on it. So just to give you guys a heads up, it's going to look a little bit different. We pushed it out earlier because we did the contingent trades. And yesterday we did that webinar on contingent trades. So we had to kind of push this out a little bit earlier because it was, for developers, it was kind of, they're related and we needed to do it on this branch. So this will change as we go on. I think it's going to look better with a little bit more intuitive analytics, but let's go over it because a lot of it it's going to remain the same. It's just going to be more. So on this Tesla, okay, what we have here up top is some summary stats, metrics that were taken from the minute-to-minute trading in SPY. Let me refresh that. I'm not sure why I have these gray. Sorry, let me just refresh my screen here. Not sure why I had these. Oh, okay. Got to follow up on that. So up top, what it's doing is running an analysis on these all day, minute to minute analytics of what's going on in Tesla, right? So we keep, we are analyzing these trades and we're summarizing them down here in the Vwap table for each minute. Okay, and then within the minute, something interesting may be happening, and then we're running analysis on that. Okay, so the first one, okay, and if you drop down, you're going to see different analytics, but the first one that we defaulted to were volume bursts. Okay, so volume bursts in Tesla. And what the volume burst does is it looks within the minute and it says, okay, for that minute, how does the volume that traded in that minute compare to a typical volume for how it trades in that, time period. right? So we're looking at the historicals and saying, well, if it's an unusual amount of volume, right? Like I think we have 2.8 standard deviations or above that we flag it and say, well, that's a large volume than we usually see around that time. All right.
AD,
Yeah.
can you just go over again how you got to the page?
Yeah. So if you want to go to a particular symbol, just type up the symbol up here, right? You could say, here, Tesla, right? If I go to Tesla, you'll end up on the main page, and then once you're on there, you get this menu to the left-hand side. So I went to price action under stock info price action. Once I hit on price action, you have this menu to the left, and I hit trading hours VWAP. Okay. So right there, Tesla up top, price action to the left, to the right, trading hours VWAP.
Perfect.
Yep. So now, so then what we do is we say, okay, if there's an unusual amount, something may have happened here, something's going on, this is a big trading volume burst. That's what we call it, a volume burst. And then we say, okay, which way was the trading leaning, towards the buy side or sell side? So we compare it to, like, what did the stock actually do on this volume burst? Did it tick up or tick down? So if it ticked up, we say it was a buy burst, tick down, it's a sell burst. So you could see, over here in Tesla, we had 2 buy bursts over here, close to the end of the day. There's a buy burst. It's 3 times its typical volume. Here, 3.1 times its typical volume for that part of the day. And they were both on upticks. See, so Tesla increased 11 cents from the previous VWAP by 17 cents here. So we flag it as the buy burst, and then we keep account for the day. So yesterday, there were 15 buy bursts in Tesla, and they all, if we took the dollar value of the volume in those, 15 instances, it was $1.9 billion worth of stock. Okay. Now, what was on average the volume weighted average price? So if we took, there are 15 different times that this traded, and traded at different prices and different volumes even, right? So if we took those prices and multiplied it by the volume, what was the average volume weighted average price here? It was 177.80. And we do the same thing for sell bursts. So here are the timestamps over here. So if we click on it, you could see here 1029. If I click on it, it's over here or over here, 2 sell bursts. So we're doing the same thing for that, norm 10 a.m. yesterday, 10:27, 20. These were larger volumes, right? 3.4 times, 4.1 times it's typical, and they're on the downside. So now we have the buy ones up here and the sell ones up here, so we could kind of see the differences in the frequency, right? So there were definitely more buy bursts yesterday than sell, 3 times as much. As far as the dollar value, way more, $1.9 billion worth of stock on the buy side, 600 million on the sell side. And we could see that the VWAP prices are very close to each other. Okay, so it wasn't something where they're far apart, where there's a lot of buys and then it ran up a lot and then the sells started, or a lot of sells and then, so very close to each other. So there could be something going on right around these levels, right? So, and the other thing, here we could just see, if we scroll down when they happen, how, if it was clustered around a particular time, and the cells as well. You could click on it and go to it. And here we see the average uptick and downtick. So what this is telling us is that when there was a buy burst, on average, the VWAP from 1 minute to the next increased by 23 cents. Okay, so that was like the price impact of those buy bursts on average, 23 cents. On the downside, when we saw sell bursts, 5 of them, the average downtick was 31 cents. So the price impact to the downside was greater, bigger magnitude than on the upside. So it seemed like once those sell bursts came in, even though there were fewer, which was interesting, there, when they hit, it didn't have the same amount of liquidity as, when on the upside. Okay, so those are the couple observations. Way more, to the upside as far as bursts go than downward. The prices where they're happening are very close together, right? So something's going, around this 177, there's lots of inflection point, where between buyers and sellers. And it seems like, to the downside, the price impact was greater magnitude, 31 cents versus 23. And then we could compare that. What happened typically, like, in the last 30 days. So in the last 30 days, we see on average, we get about an equal count, 4 versus 4, 4 buy bursts, 4 sell bursts. On average, we have around 500 million on each side. So look, a little bit more to the downside so far, but they're close together. So far the buy bursts, it seems like, the VWAP price over the last 30 days was 176.97, sell burst 174.31. So that looks like, it would be trending up, right? Stocks trending higher with the buy burst. And as far as the typical price impact, it was 38 cents to the upside, 35 cents to the downside. So now a couple of things we've added here. We do have these timestamps, and you see a plus here. So when we look at a buy burst, right, or a sell burst, well, sometimes it could be related to something else going on, right? It could be market related, or something going on that is impacting Tesla. It's not necessarily just perhaps like somebody just decided to buy Tesla. It could be market related or something. So these are now other market events going on that we're capturing that may be explaining, right? So here, we did have some sell bursts here, 1, 2, but at the same time, we saw stuff going on in the market. So you could see here, these are like all of a sudden events, nothing going between. So there are 4 events total, plus 3. If I'm hovering over it, there are 13 stocks in the S&P 500 that had a large sell burst. Okay, so what we're looking at is that, which is not typical for that time of day. Also, at the same time, SPY, IWM, QQQ, all 3 ETFs, right, had a price fade, so I'm going to show you what that is. Okay, at the same time, 26 of the 500 companies also had a price fade on the bid, and so did the sector ETF that Tesla's in. So this will be cleaned up a little bit, but what this is saying is that sell burst was correlated probably to what's been going on in the market. So it's not necessarily, just a Tesla specific, firm specific. This could be explained due to other things happening in the market, and it's doing it in sympathy. right? If the market's going down, it could go down at the same time in that minute. So a lot of stuff happened in that minute, 10:27, 10:29, you know, things were happening. So this could be, it could just be explained like that, not necessarily that somebody's exiting or getting into a position just because of that. It could be, just market related. And so that's what these pluses are. It's saying that something else happened in that minute. Okay. That might be an explanation for that volume burst. Now let's go, and look at it from another perspective. And then there's a fade burst. Okay, so what kind of burst? So that's a volume burst. I'm going to show you guys what a fade burst looks like. So this is on the bid side. So on the bid side, what happened at 10:52 was the following. The volume was within its typical range. It could have been on a little bit on the higher end or lower end, but it's within a range that didn't exceed like very unusual and a very big volume burst. But something else happened here in that 10:52, that the volumes was within the range, but the price impact exceeded what it typically moves within a minute, especially given that there's no volume burst, right? So there's no real big volume burst, but something happened. So this price, it's a bid fade, right? That's it moved 4.1 times what it typically would move. It's four standard deviations. So what can happen is that even though there's not a lot of volume, the liquidity was released. People dropped their bids. Market makers, specialists, they faded. They said, okay, you know what? I'm going to fade my bids. I'm going to move them down, right? Even without the volume, I'm lower all of a sudden. Okay. So given that, that they lowered it, then even without serious volume, you could experience a price drop, right? It doesn't have to be with volume. It could just be because the liquidity was released, the liquidity was dropped, the bids faded, and this is what happened here. Okay, at 10:52, there's a bid fade. So then we're scratching for, well, why did this, can this be explained? Is it, why would they just, drop their bids like that? So we got to look towards the right side. Say, well, what else might have happened in the market? Why would the specialist market make? So over here, now we have something else happen at 10:52. So there was a big burst in the sector ETF, the sector that Tesla's in. Okay, XLY. So you could see there was a big sell burst that minute that we detected. Also, there's a big burst in 6 other S&P 500 stocks, which was a part of a basket burst. So 6, like right around the same time, experienced a price that this is a fade. Okay, so the one was a sell burst, one was a fade. Okay, and those two things, right, that happened could have, because the market makers, specialists, liquidity, they're plugged into the market, right? So they're seeing what other things are going on there, and maybe haven't seen that the bids dropped. Right, you see big sell bursts in sector ETFs, some other stocks fading. So keep in mind, these algorithms and stuff, they're all based on reading data and they're interconnected, right? They're basing their prices on other prices that is feeding into their models that they're seeing in the whole sphere. So this could be explained away, right? Yes, there was a big fade, 72 cents, more than usual, and less, not an unusual amount of volume, but it could be explained away. We see it. Yes, there was a big sell burst out there, so they fade, right? So that's how to read this. And, if you click on, I'm not sure why we don't have a clicker on this, but here's what S&P 500 buy burst would look like. If you click on it, these are the stocks, right, that in the S&P 500 had basically simultaneously saw a buy burst. So it was like a program trade, like all of a sudden, like what happened here? It doesn't typically trade this way, that we saw a big buy burst in this basket of stocks that are part of the S&P 500. All right. And you could see here that the volume was like, 8 times standard deviation, 8, 7, all the way here. You saw Nvidia's in here, $195 million worth of stock. Amazon was in here, $26.8 million worth of stock. So, there was a basket here. We just put it up there. It doesn't necessarily have to impact it, but when there's things happening, other things happen in the marketplace that we're detecting that's, not typical or unusual, we'll add it into here. One, we wanted to see if we could explain away anything unusual in Tesla. The other is we could just see if it even has any when it happens. Does it always have an impact or not always, right? So here, we had some sector ETF bursts, S&P 500, but nothing unusual here.
Hey, D.
Yeah.
We're getting a question from Chris. He's asking, sorry if I missed it, but what is the criteria for being used for these bursts?
So for the volume bursts, we keep track of a 1 minute, on average, a one minute volume, right? So we look at the volume, what it typically trades for a minute, right? In this, so we separated from the morning, the middle day, the end of day, the last 10 minutes, okay? And then we say, okay, going back in history, typically how much volume does it trade and what is the distribution of the volume? So if it's 3 standard deviations away, we look at it as then it's a big volume burst. Okay, so I think it's 2.8 standard deviations away from the average, right? And again, the average, we put it into buckets based on time of day because the volume distribution of stocks is different when you go throughout the day. So it's like, what you'll see is typically more volume in the morning, then it tapers off, then more volume in the last hour, more volume in the last 10 minutes. So we take that into consideration. We bucket it off. We keep the statistics on those volumes over the last 30 days. And then when we spot that, hey, this is an unusual spike, based on the standard deviations away it is from the average, we flag it as a volume burst. And same thing for the price burst. We do that based on the price impacts from minute to minute.
All right. Well, that's the opening bell. That was awesome, D.
Yep.
Doug,
Right.
who was on, says thanks. This tool is awesome. So,
all right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day.